Hey Peyton, nice to see you again on this beautiful day. This time with a quote from a book by Anthony de Mello. It goes like this: To really know, that is to be transformed by what one knows. To really know, that is to be transformed by what one knows. Do you have any ideas on that? And please share them with us today.
Absolutely. Great to be back. And this is a wonderful topic. This is a corrective to a way that I certainly am very predisposed to be, which is instead of taking potentially useful spiritual practical knowledge and treating it as a source of self-examination experientially and integration primarily, I am very predisposed to learn, and intellectualize. And this is something that's super common with people, especially with the things that are most important to actually experience rather than just having surface level knowledge. And so this quote comes from a story within the book Song of the Bird, and it really applies not just to any specific religious tradition or whatever, but the story happened to be this guy converted to Christianity, and this guy was questioning him. He's like, "Okay, you converted. What year was Jesus born?" He goes, "I don't know." And okay, what year did he start talking? I don't know. Where was he born? I really don't know that actually. And then he asked him five other questions about some historical knowledge of Jesus, and he doesn't know any of them. The convert doesn't know any of them. And he's like, "Well, what kind of a convert are you if you don't know even these basic facts about him?" And he goes, "Well, I might not know those facts, and I do confess that probably I should know more than I actually do in terms of the facts. But here's what I do know. In 3 years ago, before I converted, I was an alcoholic. I was angry with my family. I wasn't able to hold a job. I wasn't able to support my family. I was angry all the time. I was suffering, and I wasn't acting kindly toward other people in the world. Now, since I have known Jesus, or since I've started this tradition, I now have great relationships with my family. I haven't had a drink in years. I have been able to hold a good job. I provide for my family. I'm kind to my friends, and I have good relationships, and I'm happy." And he says, in order to really, or if you really know something, you'll be changed by it. And this is a really useful razor when we're thinking about, do we really know something in our lives? Do we just have surface level intellectualized knowledge, or have we actually taken what is useful in this piece of knowledge, which is not a fact, which is not history? It's actually experiential knowledge. It's, are we embodying this? Is this something that we're practicing? Is this something that has really affected or transformed our lives? And keeping on Jesus, although this applies to, once again, all kinds of spiritual practice, spiritual traditions, and non-spiritual stuff like Stoicism or whatever. But Jesus himself was asked by his disciples, basically, okay, there's going to be tons of other teachers that come along. How are we going to know who's legit and who's not legit? Who's fake and who's real? And the simple razor that Jesus gave is, you will know them by their fruit. And this is something that we should absolutely look to ourselves about when we're talking about, okay, am I really practicing what I preach? Am I really learning? Am I really growing? Am I really integrating? How can we tell? I think I know more facts. I think I know more knowledge. I'm doing more activity over here. Maybe I started this practice over here. Maybe I'm doing this. Maybe I'm doing that. And how can we know if we're doing the right thing? How can we know if we're on the right path? How can we know if we're making progress? And ultimately, this boils down not to how good of a story we're telling ourselves, not to how impressively I can proliferate or bloviate upon various scriptures or various philosophies. None of those things really have a cash value. Me being able to recite 500 verses of the Bible or 500 verses of the Dhammapada or every single Upanishad or every chapter of the Torah, none of that stuff is worth anything unless I'm actually bringing into my way of being, my habits, my life, my mindset, the way I view other people, the way I feel. This is the cash value. What is the fruit in our lives? What are our actions toward ourselves and others? What is our heart like? Is our heart open? Is our heart closed? Are we angry? Are we greedy? Are we lustful? If these things are true, then in fact, in reality, we are separate from whatever we hope to practice or whatever we think we are learning. But if we are integrated, if we are growing, if the fruit is there, that is the barometer by which we should judge ourselves, whether or not we are impressive intellectuals with whatever philosophy we may be espousing. It's really the integration, the actual practice of whatever we're preaching that has the value. And so that's really a important, useful corrective to a lot of our nature, which is to, and mine included, for years and years and years, I knew so many facts. I knew so many verses. I could talk about this stuff really, really fluently. And I could memorize stuff and I could think about the different philosophies and what implies what and how does this all shake out? What is the logic? What did who say? How many names can I drop? Like all this stuff is ultimately not worth much if we're not actually bringing it into our way of being. If we're just leaving it in here, just leaving it in thoughts and sentences, then it's not actually capable of transforming us. We need to be able to open ourselves to it and to really look with sort of some humility and open eyes to where am I practicing this? Where am I not practicing this? So where am I hitting the mark? Where am I missing the mark? And that is where the change must occur if we are actually practicing these things that we're just learning about. What are your thoughts on the being transformed by what we know as the benchmark of actual understanding?
Well, thanks for sharing your ideas. And I really think that there is a discrepancy between knowledge that is not put into action and knowledge which is put into action. So, actual knowledge is the experience you transform, is the thing you don't know only intellectually but actually practice, like you said. And having this open mind and this humility to really have the empathy to really see how your interactions with the world impact them, then you really have the incentive to be transformed. So there's this story about the spiritual experience induced through psilocybin. Alcoholics, which have been treated in a clinic, have been given psilocybin, and this was one experience that gave them some kind of empathy on how they treated their loved ones when they were drunk. And through this experience of empathy towards their loved ones, they said to themselves, "Holy shit! No, I don't want them to feel that way just because of my actions." So they changed their way of being and they stopped drinking alcohol. And I believe the success rate in this one study was like 80%. And similar studies point towards um, habits of thoughts, which can mean depression, like really heavy depressions, which has been treated with psilocybin that way. They had a kind of spiritual experience. You can rate that in a scale, and the scientists analyzed that. And the effect is similarly high because they gained the empathy again towards themselves and towards the environment. They broke loose from their default network structure in which way they use their brain, and in which way they have been moist robots, just automatisms repeating themselves. They broke loose of that chain of addiction of some habits or addiction of alcohol, and really have been transformed through the experience of a deep insight. So you know the phrase of knowing it deeply inside your bones, and you have body reactions sometimes toward specific situations. You instantly know, oh, that doesn't feel right. You know it. This body reaction is some kind of knowledge which is ingrained deep in your bones, and you will be transformed by that if you're an expert in a field and you happen to be like a fire worker, commander, and you have a bad gut feeling about the house that is burning right now. And there was this story about this fireman who sent the people out, And he was like 20 years of experienced expert in that field. He said, "Oh, let's go outside. Let's go out. I don't have a good feeling about that." And the moment when the last fireman came out, the building crashed within itself. So this is really transformative knowledge, which is put into action, but also so deeply ingrained inside of yourself, um, so that you know you have been transformed by the knowledge, so you can put it into action over and over again. And also, I wanna point towards the systemic view upon that. And when physical evolution means that there's a gradual change over time and over the number of individuals or collective, um, then this is a kind of change which enacts itself. And stressors on a system are information leading to a transformation onto the system depending on the magnitude of the stressor. So every time we go to the gym and train, we give stress to our muscles. It is information which makes them grow and overcompensate. So the next time they have been transformed. So the next time they can lift heavier weights or repeat more reps. So this is knowledge of the muscle. If you train to play an instrument, if you learn to play, then you will be transformed by the knowledge because you learn the motorics and you enact the way the melody goes, and you have this kind of muscle memory. Then it is knowledge which transforms you. You don't even have to think about it anymore. And talking about the song of the birds, also in the if a bird listens to his parent, if a songbird listens to her parents, then she learns through hearing the songs, how they sing, how the melodies go, and she will repeat that through learning the behavior. So the songbird modifies its behavior through learning how their parents sing, so they can repeat it, and so on and so on. And have you ever seen an octopus?
Yes, I have.
And have you seen how they change their appearance when
Yeah.
they hide? Isn't it amazing how it goes? Like they really can mimicry a whole different kind of species. Like they can mimicry um, uh, corals underwater, and they change their color depending on their environment. They know their environment, and they change. They are transformed by the knowledge of how the shape of the environment looks like and how the color of the environment is. They change their skin color in an instant. They change the form, the expression of their skin shape in an instant. And that is real knowledge. That is real knowledge which helps you survive, which is most important to survive, to not put your identification into an idea which is bogus, which is bullshit. So you have no real basis with that idea. You cannot put it into action just because it's like a brain dump of something. You cannot survive with the knowledge of that because you cannot use it in any way. It does not transform you sometimes, it just fulfills your ego needs. But real knowledge is knowledge you can use to survive. What do you think about that, Payne?
Yeah, it's true in a way that we can see very easily in our own experience too. I think about last week. I was my best self a few days, and I was my worst self a couple days. Did I actually lose surface level knowledge? Did I have fewer facts in my brain that I could have recalled in the days that I was at my worst versus the days that I was at my best? No. All of us know this in our own experience that we have ups and downs. We're connected one week, we're disconnected one week, we're our best self one day, we're our worst self one day. Our knowledge and facts is not actually changing and going backwards every time we have a bad day. We still have the same knowledge and facts in our head. It's about how we are on the inside. And the same goes not just with knowledge itself. Like I have There are a lot of people, and I used to be one of them, that would keep track of how much they meditate, for example. And this time on the cushion, these surface level external factors, or how many books I've read about this thing, or how much I can talk about this or that philosophical tradition or spiritual tradition or whatever, or the different levels of insight or understanding that one may gain on these paths. All of these external things that we might be able to talk about or put into language are not the same as integration. They're not the same as practice. They're not the same as embodiment. And ultimately, if we don't take the translation of awareness into our own experience, then they will never cash in. All the knowledge in the world, I could memorize every single book, every single holy book that's ever been written, and it won't do anything for me except be a conversation starter unless I actually can use awareness to bring it into my own life, to take the uncomfortable step of vulnerably opening myself up and taking a look and feeling where I'm missing the mark and where I'm not. And this applies to all kinds of things. This applies to judging others. A lot of us know that we're not supposed to judge others, but if we pay attention internally within our mind, we'll notice, much to our chagrin, that we are making small judgments all the time about what we like and what we don't like. If we want to talk about surrender or faith, we can say that as much as we want, but until we actually internally surrender, until we connect with the experience of surrender, until we connect with the experience of trust and faith, it's not actually going to do anything for us to just talk about it over and over and over. Our hours in Sunday school don't count. Our hours on the meditation cushion don't count. Our hours with a book in front of us don't count unless we are cashing them in by using awareness, by bringing the light within to these things, to our own lives, and ultimately taking the uncomfortable step of integration into our way of being. That is where these things become not just surface level knowledge, but embodied knowledge, of integrated knowledge, of things that are actually transforming us. And until we bring it all the way there, it's not worth anything. And we can see this is something that a lot of traditions have tried to guard themselves against. There's a ton of traditions that have gone to great pains to avoid having sacred words. For example, if you look at Yahweh, it doesn't have vowels. It's not meant to be an actual word that can be spoken out loud. It's sort of a reminder that there is no word that captures this thing. You can only experience this through direct experience, not by talking about it. Or if we look at idolatry and sacred images, there's a lot of traditions with taboos around sacred images. And there's a good reason. It's because the image of the thing is not the thing. The word for the thing is not the thing. The actual experience, the direct connection with the thing is what can have the power to transform our lives, to transform our way of being, to transform our heart, our connections with others, and the freedom and life that is possible when we ultimately can embody these things and bring it all the way into ourselves, all the way into our embodied way of being. And so it's this temptation to just stop once I have the surface level thing and I can talk about it, to stop at the external without letting it become fully baked in to the internal. That's a temptation that a lot of us have, because when we try to bring it inside, that's when we have to admit that, oh yeah, I judge people all the time in my mind, or oh yeah, I'm constantly trying to control the future, or oh yeah, if I really look inside and I'm really honest with myself, I have lustful thoughts, I have greedy thoughts, I'm craving things, I'm holding on to things, and I'm not having a fundamental posture of surrender to the will of the universe, to the will of the divine. And that ultimately is where we can cash this shit in to actually changing and transforming our lives, to actually having real value that can change what it is like to be us and what it is like to be around us. So that's an intention that I absolutely have, to not stop at knowledge, to examine where I'm just talking about things, where I'm just putting words over things, where I'm just trying to lean on some external measurable thing rather than candidly, transparently, vulnerably examine, where am I not living up to what I'm capable of being? Where am I actually missing the mark? And this is the quest, the single player game that all of us are on, because everybody else can see the external. Everybody else can see the words we're saying. Everybody else might be able to see our stats on how much we're reading or meditating or praying or whatever the case may be. And it's up to us to see, am I ultimately letting this all the way through my way of being? Any closing thoughts from you, my man, on integration, knowledge, and embodiment of these things?
Yeah, man. Like you said, that the knowledge of facts is not embodiment. And it is obvious if you look at craftsmen, if you watch a craftsman doing his work, versus a theorist trying to do craftsmanship. You see the difference in outcome. The outcome of usability of stuff is surely greater from the craftsman who practices his art or her art over and over again versus the theorist who knows it by fact, who knows how it should behave, but maybe has limited models of how it behaves. And so the theory contradicts the practice very often, and the reality often surprises people who only have theories about things. So you have to integrate both as well. And this is also the reason why it pays to be an optimist, and why the saying that beliefs can move mountains holds true often, is that if you think great things will happen, if you really believe in your ability to figure things out, then you will not be limited by yourself when you approach new challenges. You will not be limited by paths not leading to an outcome which is positive, but you will step back and try another path. This is why determination holds so good, because if you're an optimist, you try. And if you fail, you try again. If you're a pessimist, then you try. And then you fail, and then you are confirmed in your belief that things are not possible. And that's why it pays to be an optimist as well. That's why to really know is to be transformed by what one knows. To really know things will become good, to really know in the end everything will be good, is to enact that, to embody that expectation towards the future, and also influence the future in that way. Because you expect positive things to happen, you won't stop if negative things happen. It won't stop you because you know it will happen. And therefore, you will search for alternative paths. You will look for alternative solutions. And then you will find them eventually. If you roll the dice often enough, you will find it. You will really transform the thing the way you expect it. And so this kind of knowledge towards the future is also very transformative. And this is my intention for this week, to really expect good things to happen. And remember, the best is yet to come.
Wonderful thoughts, man. Yeah, this is very challenging for me. I am taking this as, oh man, I can see all kinds of ways that I have surface level knowledge that hasn't found its way all the way through my way of being, that hasn't found its way into embodiment, alignment, and integration. I have so far to grow on this, and it's really useful to be reminded that just being able to say facts, just being able to narrate a concept or a philosophy or a practice is not the same as actually being transformed by it. And that is my intention, to push the ball further and further and further in the right direction where it counts, as opposed to just settling for the surface level. And it's an area that is, I have a long way to go. So I appreciate the reminders, man. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Wonderful topic, and I look forward to the next time.
Thank you very much, Peyton. May we be transformed and embody what we believe. Have a great day.
100%.
See ya.
Have a great day. See ya. Bye.